Good evening and welcome to ITV News. This is Wednesday night's calendar.
Hello, thanks for joining us. Here are tonight's main stories.
Online and exposed, with a shocking rise in the number of Yorkshire children being groomed on social media. We hear one family's tragic story.
He wouldn't go out. He started having panic attacks and tried to take his own life. And this was all through the perpetrator grooming.
Dangerous delivery. A gardener who brought a truckload of weapons and debris to arm rioters in Rotherham is jailed.
I would like to apologise to the complainant and to this House for my behaviour.
The Reform MP Lee Anderson says sorry for swearing at a parliamentary security guard, admitting his behaviour was out of order.
And we will not forget them, how this 101-year-old Jamaican and countless other Commonwealth soldiers were honoured with a new memorial in Bradford. Hello, first to the disturbing rise in child online grooming, where perpetrators target under 18s, often posing as someone else on apps like Snapchat and WhatsApp.
Figures from the NSPCC show there were almost 500 cases reported to police last year in Yorkshire and the Humber. That's up almost 2/3 since 2017.
Well, one woman from Yorkshire told us how her son tried to take his own life after being groomed at just 14 years old. Now she's spoken out to our reporter Amelia Beckett to warn others of the devastating impact. We're calling her Rachel and her son Ben to protect their identities.
Rachel has come to meet me today to talk about one of the worst things that ever happened to her family. At the age of 14, her son met a man online posing as someone else. Within days, he began grooming him, sexually abusing him, and blackmailing him.
The perpetrator said he was a girl, then made Ben do things over Skype. But I've never asked Ben because he doesn't want to talk about it. But I do know he got to know things about his family, where they work. And then when Ben said he'd had enough, that he wasn't interested, the blackmail started. The demands just got bigger. He said he'd kill Ben's family if he didn't do as he was told.
Rachel says he even passed Ben's details on to 5 other paedophiles who also targeted him. But she had no idea this was happening until 2 years later, when the police knocked on her door.
I was devastated, and it actually changed our lives. We used to do a lot of things together, and that stopped. He wouldn't go out. He started having panic attacks and tried to take his own life. And this was all through the perpetrator grooming.
The perpetrator received a 9-year extended sentence for his crimes, but Rachel says he changed her family forever.
How is Ben now?
Doesn't really go out socialising. He's just very wary of people around him. And that's very sad, that a young boy is scared to go out and socialise with his friends.
For anybody who's involved in perpetrator behaviour, what would you say to them?
Think of all the people's lives you're destroying. It's not just the children that you're grooming, it's actually their families too. Because it changes everybody's lives forever.
It certainly does, doesn't it? Well, thank you to Rachel and Ben for sharing their story with us. Unsurprisingly, it's an issue that the children's charity, the NSPCC, is concerned about. Let's have a look at their latest campaign video raising awareness of it.
Hi everyone. So I've decided to talk about the abuse that's happening online. People need to open their eyes to the risks that are out there.
Hi, are you there?
Well, a little earlier we spoke to Helen Westerman from the charity and asked how worried she was about the situation.
We know, unfortunately, it's on the increase, and here across Yorkshire and Humber, we've seen a 61% increase over the last 5 years around sexual communication with the child. And for parents and for children, that's deeply worrying.
61%, I mean, that's a huge increase. What are the signs that this might be happening if you've got a child at home and you're worried about them?
So your child might become more secretive. They might be hiding their phones, shutting the laptop when you walk into the room. They might be seemingly happier, so they might be getting a lot of praise or a lot of support from the person that's potentially grooming them. So you may see a change in your child's personality. They may be withdrawn, they may be worried, they might be missing school. So just to look out for changes in how your child's presenting.
We've seen tech use on the rise over the years, especially with children getting younger and younger. What can parents do if they think their child is being targeted?
I think it's all about prevention. So having those early conversations with your children as soon as they start using tech, when they get that first mobile phone or they start using a tablet, you know, setting some rules and boundaries. So are they allowed to talk to people that they don't know? Do they have to get your approval for getting WhatsApp or Snapchat? And you letting them know that they can come to you if and when something goes wrong. And that's easier said than done, isn't it? Because as parents, we want to protect our children and maybe take tech away if we're worried about something. But we want to have a mature conversation with our children so that they feel they can come to us and we don't seemingly overreact.
How young are some of the children who might be groomed online?
Really worryingly young. So we know that predominantly it's girls aged 12 to 15, but certainly we've heard of 5-year-olds being groomed in the online space, and we know increasingly children of primary age are being contacted by people that they don't know through their online spaces.
Helen, is there anything the government or the tech companies can do to prevent this sort of thing actually happening?
Yeah, so there's a lot that tech companies do, and we want Ofcom to have the teeth to be able to regulate those tech companies. So when we're building new social media apps, we want child protection built into those apps from the get-go. So we're not looking at responding to incidents where children have been groomed. We're stopping them from happening in the first place. And it shouldn't be okay that adults can contact children in these online spaces where they have no previous connection with a child and go through friendship groups to try and befriend children that they just don't know.
You're not saying that the tech itself is the danger.
No.
It's the usage.
It's how perpetrators are using that to reach children, and not just vulnerable children, but all children.
Helen, thank you so much. It's really, really interesting and food for thought, isn't it, for parents?
Indeed.
It really is.
Thank you.
Helen. Yeah, really serious issue, isn't it, that will resonate with a lot of people watching
Yeah,
tonight.
a lot of parents, grandparents will be thinking about how they manage kids online.
Certainly will, yeah. OK, next tonight, a self-employed gardener who took a truck loaded with debris and wood that was used as ammunition to attack police during the summer's unrest has been jailed for his part in the riots.
Jake Turton from Barnsley was said by prosecutors to have specifically driven his pickup truck close to the hotel housing asylum seekers in Rotherham, allowing protesters to arm themselves with makeshift weapons.
Well, his jail sentence of 2 years and 3 months, handed down at Sheffield Crown Court today, means those who took part in the violent disorder in Rotherham have now been jailed altogether for a total of more than 150 years. John Hill reports.
It's the afternoon of the 4th of August. Smoke billows over a line of police trying to protect the Holiday Inn Express in Rotherham. It's housing around 200 asylum seekers, and it's now been besieged by an unruly mob. The fires have been started in the emergency exits of the hotel and here on nearby grassland. And into the frame of the police helicopter camera comes the bright red pickup truck of Jake Turton. Sheffield Crown Court heard how Turton, a father of 3 young children, had driven specifically to the scene of the unrest to provide ammunition and weapons. Police helicopter footage shows a protester helping himself to wooden panels from the back of Turton's truck before Turton then drives off. In fact, this was the second time that Jake Turton had been happy to let his load of debris be taken and repurposed as makeshift weapons that were then hurled at the police. The 38-year-old pleaded guilty to violent disorder and was jailed for 2 years and 3 months for his part in the violence which injured more than 50 police officers. Passing sentence, Judge Sarah Wright told Turton that she'd received references speaking of his good character, that he was a hard-working, trustworthy family man. But on the 4th of August, he'd been part of a large, racist mob whose actions had left asylum seekers, hotel staff and the police in fear. And those actions had badly damaged the reputation of Rotherham and South Yorkshire as a whole. In the 3 months following the disorder in Rotherham, 86 people have now been charged, and for those convicted, jail sentences totalling more than 150 years have been handed down. Prosecutors say today's case will not be the last to come before the courts. John Hill, ITV News, Sheffield.
You're watching ITV Calendar. Still to come on the programme.
Out it comes to Harmer. Blaster. Harrison Burrows, maybe! Sheffield United steal it!
Cutting it fine. The Blades leave it very late to grab this dramatic stoppage time winner. That and the rest of last night's football action coming up.
And a picture postcard autumnal scene of the Lady Bower plug hole, but there's not much water coming from the skies above over the next few days, but of course I'll have all the detail a little later on.
The MP for Ashfield has apologised to the House of Commons for swearing at a security guard.
Reform UK's Lee Anderson was found to have breached Parliament's bullying and harassment policy, and today he admitted that his behaviour was unacceptable. Our political correspondent Charanpreet Kaur was watching.
Today, Lee Anderson apologised to the House of Commons after a standards watchdog found that he swore at a security guard. It happened last November after the Reform UK MP was told that he had to show his pass to the guard at one of the gates to the Westminster estate. He then got angry, swore at the guard twice and said, "Everyone opened the door for me." The guard is said to have been left upset and intimidated, and the incident even led to him moving jobs within Parliament. The guard himself added, "After the incident, I felt I no longer wanted to be a security officer. My confidence and integrity have been affected." Well, initially, Lee Anderson denied that he'd sworn at the security guard. In August, he told the watchdog that the allegations made against him were untrue and would not stand up in a court of law. But after his appeal was rejected, he accepted the watchdog's findings and today said this in the House of Commons.
During the incident, I spoke to the complainant in a manner that was totally unacceptable and which included swearing and other language that goes against the House of Commons bullying and harassment policy. I would like to apologise to the complainant and to this House for my behaviour.
As part of Lee Anderson's mandatory apology, he also had to admit that there was a power imbalance between himself and the security guard, and he had to make a direct written apology to the guard himself. Well, we approached Mr Anderson for comment today, but he declined to do an interview with us.
And that was Charanpreet Kaur there. Well, next, you might think that scabies, rickets and scurvy have been consigned to the history books, but those Victorian diseases from the Oliver Twist era are back and they're highly contagious.
Yes, although numbers are still relatively small, experts say the rise in them could be a worrying sign that the cost of living crisis is causing malnutrition and affecting our region's health. Kevin Ashford reports.
Monica says she uses this church-run food bank on occasions simply to help make ends meet.
I have 3 children, 15, nearly 15, 12, and my little one, she's 4 years old. So we have to pay for the rent, we have to pay for the bills, for everything. Plus kids is growing, so the new clothes.
The former nurse who manages the food bank says she's seen people's problems get worse.
They will rather skip food and pay their house rent or mortgage. And if people skip food, or if they go on the low side and buy just anything that is cheap and is not of quality commodity, they will be ill.
That struggle for some families to provide a healthy diet is having some rather worrying consequences. This museum is dedicated to providing insight into what life was like in Victorian times, including the sort of illnesses they faced. And now it seems some of those diseases are experiencing a modern-day comeback. Cases of the bone disease rickets, which is linked to a vitamin D deficiency, are on the increase. And annual hospital admissions for scurvy have risen in the last decade from just under 100 to more than 170. Scurvy is caused by a lack of vitamin C over a sustained period. Ilaria Bilancini, who's a nutritional therapist from Sheffield, says there are many sources of vitamin C.
Things like broccoli and green leafy vegetables, citrus fruits, so things like your lemons, oranges, and looking at like affordability, choosing things like frozen fruits and vegetables are still providing you with really good quality sources of vitamin C and are often cheaper.
I talk to patients who tell me stories such as a working mum with 3 children, and in order to make ends meet, she's doing 2, maybe 3 part-time jobs. She's really busy, she's exhausted, she's got these 3 children as well, and fast food is the easy and cheap way to fill everybody up.
A government spokesperson told ITV they're working to tackle the underlying causes of poor health because they said prevention is better than cure, as the authorities try to find a way to get rid of unwanted echoes of the past. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Well, earlier on I spoke to GP Dr Ellie Cannon about this issue and started by asking if it's surprising that illnesses associated with a previous era are becoming more common.
I think it really is. We've known for hundreds of years that eating certain foods will prevent these type of diseases, and yet here we are in the UK in 2024. So I think it is both worrying and shocking.
Again, we saw in Kevin's report that food poverty was one of the factors associated with the rise in these diseases. Is there anything else? Education, a lack of nutrition, that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, the communities who are affected by these conditions are also the communities who are affected by difficulties with education, with poor housing, with living standards and the cost of living, unemployment. All of these social factors will be contributing, not to mention the food environment within the United Kingdom.
What can be done to fix this, do you think?
Well, I think there are bigger, longer-term solutions, looking at how we change the food environment for everybody and improving those living standards for these specific communities. But perhaps in the shorter term, what we need to be looking at is vitamins for children and improving nutrients in that way.
Should people be worried about this right now?
I think people should be worried that this can happen in 2024 in the UK, given that we've known about these types of diseases for centuries.
Dr Ellie Cannon, thank you so much for speaking to us. We appreciate your time.
Well, one of the ways to get your vitamins is the weather, isn't it? It's vitamin D, isn't it, with sunshine?
Sunshine,
yes,
is, yeah.
Yes, but we've also got more rain, haven't we? So how are you getting the washing dry? Have you ever stopped to work out what the cheapest way of drying your laundry is? Have you?
No, not really.
No, not giving it much thought.
I imagine it's just hanging it outside, but you need a breeze, don't you?
Yeah, but when it's cold and it's winter, sometimes you have to dry it inside, don't you?
You do.
And there are ways of saving money.
Yeah, drying clothes inside is responsible for almost 1/3 of the moisture in our homes, and when the air is wet, it makes heating our houses more expensive and can cause mould. So what are the best options? James Webster's been getting some money-saving advice.
If it feels like your washer never stops, hanging your clothes outside might be your first choice. And according to the consumer group Which, it's always the cheapest option and doesn't need a warm day to be effective.
Researchers estimate that 30% of the moisture in our homes that's causing damp and condensation comes from drying laundry inside. A lot of people don't realise actually, even in the depths of winter, if 5 degrees Celsius, as long as it's a dry day. People dry their clothes on a line in Alaska. We can do it in the UK as long as it's not raining. It's the wind that matters most.
It's estimated a typical household does more than 5 loads of washing every week. 42% of people say they don't consider the environmental impact. Of those who do, 65% said they dry their clothes in the air rather than with a tumble dryer. At the cleaning centre laundrette in Dronfield, we've been asking people if their laundry habits change at this time of year.
Yeah, I do. I hang them over the pipes in the house, but I finish them off. I've got mine hung out today, but I don't think they're going to do very much today.
I use the old-fashioned throw-it-about method.
What's that?
So you get it out the washing machine, you throw it about, get some aerated, hang it on back of a chair, and time will tell.
I think people, are used to the idea that a tumble dryer will cost a fortune. And some of the older ones really do. They might be costing you £1.20, £1.50 even if they're an old vented tumble dryer. But if you're buying one of the kind of modern A+ rated heat pump tumble dryers, they literally cost 21p to run.
Indoor clothes areas can also add to heating costs, with more moisture going into the air.
And if you've got clothes on an area like this, what sort of costs are you going to incur if you have something like a dehumidifier running to get the moisture out of the air?
That could cost you, say, £1.50 over the course of a 12-hour drying cycle.
So, pros and cons for all these methods, but the traditional outdoor line, even in winter, still fares well for cost and efficiency. It's advice the experts think more of us should consider if we want to save money on the laundry. James Webster, ITV News.
Yeah, some good advice there. OK, time for some football now, and Leeds United will be aiming to bounce back into the Championship's automatic promotion places when they travel to Millwall tonight. The Whites slipped out of the top two last night after Sheffield United staged a late comeback to beat Bristol City. 18-year-old Ryan One scored his first Blades goal to equalise 4 minutes from time. Then in the 8th minute of stoppage time, Harrison Burrows fired in to spark jubilation in the away end. Meanwhile, Sheffield Wednesday also recorded a win. First half goals from Josh Windass and Dominic Iorfa, enough to secure the victory over Norwich at Hillsborough.
A veteran who's 101 years old has helped to unveil a memorial in Bradford which honours Commonwealth soldiers who served in the wars.
It's the first of its kind outside London. Jack Crawford came over from Jamaica to sign up. His family say this is an important day. Katie Oscroft reports.
A poignant moment to honour the sacrifice and contribution of soldiers from Commonwealth nations during 2 world wars. And a proud moment for 101-year-old Jack Crawford, a World War II veteran originally from the Caribbean.
We're really happy that the contribution of all the soldiers and all the airmen and service people who were in both World Wars is finally being acknowledged.
And Dad was one of 5,000 soldiers from the Caribbean who came over in 1944, volunteered. Nobody made them come over, but volunteered. This recognition of, all the serving Commonwealth soldiers and airmen in the past and up until, the present is just really important. And we feel really proud that Bradford has that.
And we're lucky that your dad is here to see this.
At 101 and a half.
Millions of Commonwealth soldiers served alongside the British Army. This permanent memorial is now a reminder of what they did. Nusrat Hussain served in the RAF like 5 generations of his family before him.
When I was at the cenotaph, there were hardly any people of my background who were British Pakistani or British Asian, British Black, that represented their background. So this was to bring on par the recognition for people of the Commonwealth. So it's very important for me that my ancestors' contribution is also recognised.
They all stood together, shoulder to shoulder.
Inside Bradford City Hall, a celebration of the first time a monument like this has been put up outside London.
I think this is going to make a massive difference to the community and the families who've had people who've contributed, the men and women who lost their lives, who after the wars came to Bradford and built their home here.
The BEM.
Jack Crawford has long had his medals in recognition of his service and bravery. Now in Bradford, there is public recognition too. Katie Oscroft, ITV News, Bradford.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? OK, well, it's time to catch up with Kerry now.
Yeah. I'm talking
Hi,
air pollution.
Yay!
Happy Wednesday.
Great subject.
Of course, we had the bonfires and the fireworks. There was a lot of smoke and it was really high. It was actually level 8 in Leeds, even at 11 a.m. this morning. There's the scale on the left, and that's really quite dangerous, particularly with anyone with respiratory conditions. I thought it was my hairspray, honestly, earlier on today. It's really bad.
It was smoky in the studio. It smelled smoky from
We would expect it, obviously, with that kind of thing going on in the air, with a lot of fires and fireworks. But this is the forecast for tomorrow. tomorrow it's back to green. Enjoy your usual outdoor activities. There you go. So thumbs up.
Oh, so it's all safe again?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was just because of bonfire night. Hare Hills this morning. What's this? Actual blue sky, and today 15 degrees in Topcliffe. That was really warm.
Wow.
The average is 11. Will we stay mild and will we get any sunshine? Here's your forecast.
Good visibility on the horizon. TIRI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Yes, cloudy is the default setting. Roll on Monday for more prolonged sunny spells, hopefully. For most of us, it looked like this today, but we have, over the last few days, seen one or two breaks and a little bit of blue sky coming through. But we've got high pressure to the east, low pressure to the west. Even as we head through towards the weekend, these weakening fronts push through, not really amounting to much by the time they reach us, but just producing quite a bit of cloud still for Saturday and much of Sunday. But overnight tonight, we see the cloud thicken and, you guessed it, the low cloud, misty, murky and damp conditions reforming over the North York Moors, the Dales, the Pennines and the Peak District. For all, it's a cloudy story, but mostly dry. But those temperatures, certainly in towns and cities, staying in double figures. Another mild night for many to come. As we head into Thursday, 7:19 and 4:20 are your sun times. You guessed it, you know what's happening tomorrow. A little bit of dampness over the Pennines first thing. A mostly dry, mostly cloudy day. If anything, a tiny bit more of a breeze, but still from a southerly direction. Maybe the cloud thinning at times, but mostly cloudy. And the temperatures down a degree or two on today's values, back to near normal, 11 or 12 Celsius. As we head into tomorrow night and indeed into Friday, perhaps some brighter spells making it in from the west later on in the day, but again a mostly dry, mostly cloudy story. Temperatures around average, but you can see all the two rain weather fronts, or rain bands if you like, in the west, and they're going to try and come through but fizzle out as they approach us. So still quite cloudy conditions for much of Saturday and Sunday, but a front later Sunday will brighten things and freshen things up into Monday.
TIRI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Well, at least it's looking good for next week, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Some good news.
I don't like to wish the week away, but yeah, I'm over this weather now.
Right, OK. I quite like it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. At least it can be smoke-free tonight, though, for Arif when he presents the late bulletins, isn't it?
Over to Mary next, though. Bye-bye.
Bye.